At my baby shower, they turned it into my brother's celebration. I stayed quiet. Having you here listening to me means a lot. Watch until the end and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. I'm really curious to see how far my story is reaching. I stood at the entrance of the community center, my hand resting on my 7-month pregnant belly, staring at something that made no sense. The soft pink and white decorations I'd helped my mother Linda choose 3 weeks ago were gone. In their place hung corporate banners and congratulatory signs that read, "Promotion Celebration for Marcus Richardson." My breath caught in my throat. This was supposed to be my baby shower. "Jennifer, there you are." My mother's voice rang out from across the room, but there was something forced about her cheerfulness. She walked toward me wearing the navy dress she reserved for important occasions, not the casual outfit she'd planned for my shower. "Mom, what's happening here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She glanced around nervously before putting on that smile I'd learned to recognize over the years, the one that meant she was about to deliver news I wouldn't want to hear. "Well, sweetheart, we had to make a small change to the plans." She spoke quickly, like ripping off a Band-Aid. "Marcus got that promotion at the law firm yesterday. Senior partner. Can you believe it? And since we already had everything booked here, and since family is supposed to support each other during big moments." I felt the words hit me like a physical blow. "You canceled my baby shower?" "Not canceled," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Postponed. We can do something small for you next weekend. But this promotion, Jennifer, this is huge for our family. This is the kind of success we should all be celebrating." I looked around the room and saw my aunts, my cousins, my closest friends, all the people who were supposed to be here for me and my baby, now mingling around tables decorated with law firm logos and champagne glasses. The gift table that should have been covered in tiny onesies and baby blankets was instead stacked with congratulations cards and what looked like expensive bottles of wine. "Where are my decorations? My gifts?" The words came out strangled. "Oh, I returned most of them to the party store yesterday. No point in letting them go to waste when we weren't using them." Linda adjusted her purse strap, avoiding my eyes. "And I told everyone about the change. They understand. Marcus's success reflects on all of us." That's when I saw him. Marcus stood in the center of the room, tall and confident in his expensive suit, accepting handshakes and back pats from relatives who should have been cooing over baby photos and playing shower games. His wife Sarah stood beside him, radiant in a red dress that probably cost more than I spent on maternity clothes for my entire pregnancy. Marcus caught my eye and raised his champagne glass with a broad smile. "Hey sis, thanks for letting us use your party space. This promotion is going to change everything for Sarah and me." The casualness of it, the assumption that I'd just handed over my special day, made my chest tighten. I felt a sharp pain in my side and realized I was holding my breath. "I need to sit down," I managed to say. But Linda was already walking away, gravitating toward Marcus like he was the sun, and the rest of us were just planets in his orbit. I watched as she took his arm and began introducing him to people as my son, the senior partner. Nobody seemed to notice that the pregnant woman they'd come to celebrate was now standing alone by the door. My friend Jessica approached with a confused expression. "Jen, I'm so sorry. Your mom called this morning and said you decided to combine celebrations? I brought a baby gift anyway, but I wasn't sure where to put it." The fact that my own mother had lied to my friends had made it sound like this was my idea sent a wave of nausea through me that had nothing to do with pregnancy hormones. "It's fine," I heard myself say, though nothing about this was fine. "Just put it wherever." But as I watched Jessica walk away, gift in hand, heading toward a table that wasn't mine, in a party that wasn't mine, celebrating someone else's achievements with people who'd forgotten I existed, I realized that staying silent might be the biggest mistake I'd ever made. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I found my mother near the buffet table, arranging canapes that should have been baby-themed finger foods. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Mom, can we talk privately for a minute?" Linda barely glanced at me. "Not now, Jennifer. I'm busy making sure everything looks perfect for Marcus. You know how important first impressions are in his line of work." This was supposed to be my day. The words came out more broken than I'd intended. She finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd seen too many times before: impatience. Jennifer, you're being dramatic. It's just a party. You'll have plenty of opportunities to celebrate your baby after it's born. But the people, the planning, the gifts, everyone was coming for me and the baby. And now they're here for Marcus, which is what matters. Her voice had that edge it got when she was done discussing something. Look, sweetheart, babies come all the time. But a senior partnership at Richardson and Associates? That's a once-in-a-lifetime achievement. Our family needs to support real success. Real success. The words hit me like a slap. Apparently growing a human being and preparing to become a mother wasn't real enough. I turned to walk away and nearly collided with Sarah, Marcus's wife. She was holding a champagne flute and wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, Jennifer, I was just looking for you." Her voice was sugar-sweet, but there was something underneath it. "I hope you don't mind us borrowing your little gathering. Marcus really deserves to have his moment in the spotlight, don't you think?" The way she said little gathering made my skin crawl. "It was my baby shower, Sarah." "Well, yes, but let's be honest. Baby showers are really just an excuse for women to get together and gossip, aren't they? This celebration actually means something. Marcus has worked so hard for this promotion." She took a sip of her champagne and looked me up and down. "I'm sure you understand the difference between celebrating an actual achievement versus, well, something that just happens naturally." I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of her. Some people," Sarah continued, lowering her voice so only I could hear, "need to learn that not everything is about them. It's time to grow up and realize that other people's successes matter too." Before I could respond, she drifted away, leaving me standing there feeling smaller than I had in years. I looked around the room, desperately hoping someone would notice what was happening. My Aunt Carol was deep in conversation with Marcus about his new office. My cousin Lisa was asking Sarah about their vacation plans now that they could afford somewhere exotic. Even my best friend since college, Maria, was laughing at something Marcus had said about his courtroom victories. Not one person was asking about my pregnancy, my due date, or how I was feeling. The baby I'd been so excited to share with everyone might as well have been invisible. I spotted my mother-in-law, Ruth, sitting alone near the back of the room. Surely she would understand how wrong this was. I made my way over to her, each step feeling heavier than the last. "Ruth, I'm so glad you're here," I started, settling into the chair next to her. She patted my hand absently. "Of course, dear." Although I have to say, I was a bit confused when Linda called this morning to explain the change. But Marcus's promotion is wonderful news for the family. My heart sank. "She called you this morning?" "Oh, yes. She explained how you decided it would be better to celebrate something more substantial." "Very mature of you, Jennifer. Not every woman would be so selfless." Selfless. They were all acting like this had been my idea, like I'd graciously stepped aside to let Marcus have his moment. The lie was spreading through every conversation, every congratulations, every handshake. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. In the fluorescent lighting, I looked at my reflection, swollen belly, tired eyes, wearing the special dress I'd bought specifically for my baby shower. A dress that now made me feel ridiculous and out of place. When I came back out, the party was in full swing. Marcus was giving an impromptu speech about hard work and family support. Linda was beaming at him like he'd just won a Nobel Prize. Sarah was taking photos for social media, making sure everyone knew about their big day. And me? I stood at the edge of it all, 7 months pregnant, watching my own family celebrate everything I wasn't. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I walked quietly to the coat rack, picked up my purse, and headed for the door. No dramatic goodbye, no angry confrontation, no tears. Just silence. As I reached my car, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. No one had even noticed I was leaving. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. My hands were shaking, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's smug smile and heard my mother's words. real success. When I finally got home, David was in the kitchen making dinner. He looked up with a smile that quickly faded when he saw my face. "How was the shower? You're back early." I couldn't find the words at first. How do you explain that your own family had erased you from your own celebration? That your mother had lied to everyone to make it seem like your idea? There was no shower. I finally managed. Mom turned it into a promotion party for Marcus. David set down the wooden spoon he'd been using and turned to face me fully. "What do you mean?" I told him everything. The decorations, the lies, Sarah's comments, the way everyone just went along with it like I didn't matter. As I spoke, I watched his expression change from confusion to anger to something that looked almost like pity. That's really messed up, Jen. I'm sorry." He pulled me into a hug, but something about it felt automatic, obligatory. "But maybe it's not as bad as you think. I mean, we can always have another party." The casualness of his response hit me wrong. Another party? David, they took my baby shower and gave it to someone else. They lied to our friends and family. They made me look selfish for something I didn't even do. I know, but getting upset about it won't change anything. And you know how your mom gets with Marcus. She's always been that way. Always been that way. Like that made it acceptable. Like 30 years of being second place was just something I should accept. That night, I lay awake thinking about all the times I'd been pushed aside for Marcus. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, the family dinner was canceled because Marcus had a football playoff game. When I got accepted to graduate school, my parents barely acknowledged it because Marcus was starting law school the same year. When I got engaged to David, my mother spent the entire celebration dinner talking about Marcus's new girlfriend. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was being too sensitive, that good daughters don't compete with their brothers for attention. But lying there in the dark, feeling my baby kick against my ribs, I realized something that made my chest ache. I'd been invisible in my own family for so long that they didn't even see the cruelty anymore. The next few days passed in a blur of silence. My phone stayed quiet. No calls asking how I was feeling, no apologies, no acknowledgement that anything wrong had happened. I kept checking it, expecting someone to reach out, but the silence stretched on. Finally, Maria called. I thought maybe she'd realized what had really happened and wanted to apologize. "Jen, I wanted to thank you again for being so understanding about the party change. It really showed how mature you are." My heart sank. "Maria, I didn't change anything. Mom canceled my shower without telling me." There was a pause. "But Linda said you'd called her and suggested combining the celebrations. She said you wanted to support Marcus during his big moment." Another lie. Another person who believed I'd willingly given up my own day. That's not what happened. "Oh." Maria's voice got uncomfortable. "Well, maybe there was some miscommunication? You know how these family things can get complicated. But the important thing is that you were there for your brother when he needed you." After I hung up, I realized that even if I told everyone the truth, would they believe me? Or would they think I was just being dramatic, just like my mother had said? I stopped answering my phone altogether. When people texted asking about the baby or making small talk, I gave short, polite responses. When my mother called to chat as if nothing had happened, I let it go to voicemail. David started giving me looks like I was overreacting. "Maybe you should call your mom back." This silent treatment isn't helping anyone. But it wasn't a silent treatment. It was self-preservation. Every time I thought about that party, about standing there pregnant, and ignored while everyone celebrated Marcus, I felt something break a little more inside me. 2 weeks later, I was folding baby clothes in the nursery when I got a text from my cousin Lisa. Saw the photos from Marcus's party on Facebook. Looked amazing. "Can't wait for your shower next month." Next month. My mother hadn't even rescheduled. She just let everyone assume there would be another party while having no intention of planning one. I sat on the floor of the nursery, surrounded by tiny onesies and blankets, and finally let myself cry. Not the angry tears I'd been holding back, but the deep, exhausted sobs of someone who'd finally understood they were truly alone. My baby deserved better than this. We both did. That's when I started making plans that would change everything. The contraction started at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, 8 weeks before my due date. David was in Seattle for a work conference, and I told him not to worry about flying back early since the baby wasn't due for another 2 months. I'd been having what I thought were Braxton Hicks contractions for days, but these were different. Sharper. More urgent. By 4 a.m., I knew this was really happening. I called David first, but it went straight to voicemail. Conference calls with the East Coast he'd mentioned. I tried my mother next, hands shaking as I dialed. Jennifer? It's 4 in the morning. What's wrong? Mom. I'm in labor. I need someone to drive me to the hospital. There was a pause. Labor? But you're not due until March. I know, but it's happening now. The contractions are 5 minutes apart. Can you come get me? Oh, honey, Marcus and Sarah are having their gender reveal party tonight. I'm helping Sarah set up, and there's so much to do. Can't you take an Uber? I felt something cold settle in my stomach. You want me to take an Uber to give birth? It's not that I want you to, it's just that this timing is really difficult. Sarah has been planning this for weeks, and if Marcus's baby is a boy, they want to start telling his partners at the firm. It's important for his career. Marcus's baby. I hadn't even known Sarah was pregnant. When did they? Oh, they announced it last week at Sunday dinner. You would have known if you'd been returning my calls. Her voice had that edge again. Look, Jennifer, I'm sure everything will be fine. First babies usually take hours anyway. I hung up and called an Uber with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The driver, a kind woman named Rosa, kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror as another contraction gripped me. You sure you don't want me to call someone for you, Mija? You shouldn't be alone right now. But I was alone. More alone than I'd ever been in my life. Emma was born 6 hours later, weighing 4 pounds, 3 ounces. Tiny but perfect, with David's nose and my stubborn chin. The nurses kept asking about visitors, about family coming to meet the baby. They're busy, I kept saying. David finally called back when Emma was 12 hours old. I'm so sorry, Jen. My phone died, and I was in meetings all day. How are you? How's the baby? When I told him Emma had been born, he went quiet. Why didn't you call me sooner? I tried. Multiple times. I'll catch the next flight home. But he wouldn't be there for another 8 hours, and visiting hours would be over by then. On my second day in the hospital, I made the mistake of checking Facebook. Sarah had posted photos from their gender reveal party, elaborate blue decorations, a cake that revealed blue filling, Marcus looking proud in a dad-to-be t-shirt. The comments were full of congratulations from family members, including my aunts, cousins, and even my mother-in-law. My mother had commented, "So excited for our first grandson. This family is truly blessed." First grandson. Like Emma didn't exist. Like my daughter, born the same night they were celebrating their pregnancy announcement, was invisible. I scrolled through the photos, seeing relatives I'd grown up with, friends of the family, all celebrating Marcus and Sarah's news. Not one person had mentioned me or asked about my pregnancy. Not one person seemed to remember that I'd been due soon. Then I saw it, a photo of my mother and Sarah embracing, both of them glowing with excitement. The caption read, "The best mother-in-law a girl could ask for. Thank you for making tonight so special and for being such an amazing example of how to put family first." Family first. While I'd been giving birth alone, my mother had been playing hostess to the daughter-in-law who'd humiliated me at my own baby shower. I turned off my phone and held Emma closer. She was so small, so perfect, so completely unaware that half her family didn't know she existed yet. A nurse named Patricia came in to check on us. She was older, with kind eyes and gentle hands. "Still no visitors?" she asked, noting the empty chairs around my bed. I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. "Well, that's their loss," she said firmly. "This little girl is beautiful, and you did an amazing job bringing her into the world. Some families just don't know how to appreciate what they have." When David finally arrived the next morning, he was full of apologies and explanations. But as he held Emma for the first time, I realized something that chilled me. If my own family couldn't be bothered to care about their granddaughter's birth, What kind of relationship would they have with her as she grew up? Would Emma spend her childhood the way I had? Always wondering why she wasn't enough. Always coming second to whatever Marcus's family was doing? As I watched my husband cradle our daughter, I made a decision that would change all our lives. We were going to disappear. 3 months after Emma was born, I started planning our escape. Not dramatically, David would never go for that. But quietly, systematically, like I was planning a vacation that would never end. David had gotten a job offer in Portland 6 months earlier. We turned it down because it meant leaving family behind. Now, I dug out that email and asked him to reach out to the company again. "I thought you wanted to stay close to your parents," David said, looking confused as I brought up the Portland position over dinner. "I changed my mind. I think a fresh start would be good for us. For Emma." He studied my face. "This is about the baby shower thing, isn't it? Jen, you can't run away from family problems." But I wasn't running away from problems. I was running toward peace. "Just think about it," I said. New city, better job. Emma could grow up somewhere without all the family drama. It took 2 weeks of careful persuasion, but David finally made the call. The position was still available. They wanted him to start in 2 months. Meanwhile, my family had settled into a routine of pretending nothing had changed. My mother called occasionally to ask how the baby was doing, but always in the same breath as updates about Marcus and Sarah's pregnancy progress. They were having a boy, due in November. Sarah was already planning an elaborate nursery reveal party. "You should bring Emma to meet everyone soon," Linda would say. "The family is so excited to see her." But no one had actually asked to meet her. No one had visited. No one had sent a gift or a card. Their excitement was theoretical at best. I stopped mentioning our Portland plans to anyone except David. When people asked about our future, I gave vague answers about seeing what opportunities come up. I'd learned the value of keeping my plans to myself. The week before we moved, I took Emma to a Mommy and Me group at the community center where my shower should have been held. Watching other mothers with their babies, seeing how they talked about their families and support systems, I realized how isolated I'd become. "My mom comes over twice a week to help with laundry," one woman was saying. "I don't know what I'd do without her." "My sister bought us a freezer full of meals for the first month," said another. "Family really makes all the difference." I smiled and nodded, but inside I felt the familiar ache of being on the outside looking in. That night, I blocked my family's numbers on my phone and social media. Not angrily, just quietly, the way you might close a book you're done reading. I packed Emma's things, sorted through baby clothes she'd already outgrown, and prepared for the life we were going to build without them. David found my blocking spree when he tried to call my mother about something. "Jen, what the hell? Your mom's number goes straight to a message saying it's been disconnected." I blocked them. "You blocked your entire family?" They made their choice when they turned my baby shower into Marcus's party. When they didn't show up for Emma's birth. When they've spent 3 months acting like she barely exists. I kept folding tiny onesies as I spoke, my voice steady. "I'm protecting our daughter from growing up the way I did. This is insane. You can't just cut off your family because of hurt feelings." "These aren't hurt feelings, David. This is a pattern that's been going on my entire life. I won't let Emma grow up thinking she's not good enough, not important enough, not worth celebrating." He stared at me like I'd become someone he didn't recognize. Maybe I had. The moving truck came on a Thursday. We told the neighbors we were relocating for David's job, but I'd been deliberately vague about when and where. I wanted to disappear completely, like a magic trick where one day we were there and the next day we simply weren't. As we loaded the last boxes, Mrs. Patterson from next door brought over a plate of cookies. "I'll miss having you as neighbors," she said, bouncing Emma gently. "And this little angel. Your parents must be devastated that you're moving so far away." "They don't know yet," I said simply. She looked confused, but I didn't elaborate. We drove away from everything I'd ever known with Emma sleeping in her car seat and our entire life packed into a moving truck ahead of us. I didn't look back at the house, didn't take pictures, didn't feel nostalgic. I felt free. It wasn't until we were 2 states away that my phone started buzzing with notifications from the social media accounts I hadn't blocked yet. Maria had posted about running into someone who mentioned our house was for sale. People were asking questions, wondering why we'd left so suddenly. I turned off my phone and watched the landscape change outside the window. Emma would grow up in Portland, surrounded by mountains and rain and people who chose to love her. She'd never know what it felt like to be forgotten at her own celebration. By the time anyone in my family realized we were gone, we'd already started building something better. 3 years later, I stood in the lobby of Richardson and Associates, waiting to sign papers that would finally close the last legal tie to my old life. My grandmother had left me her house, and I needed to transfer the deed before selling it. Emma, now a confident 3-year-old with David's easy smile and my determined streak, was at preschool in Portland. She spoke with a slight Pacific Northwest accent and called rain happy water. She had never asked about grandparents she'd never met, never wondered why we didn't visit family for holidays. She knew she was loved completely, without conditions, without competition. The law firm's receptionist looked up when I entered. Jennifer Richardson? Mr. Thompson is ready for you. Richardson. I'd kept my maiden name professionally, though it felt strange to hear it again. As I walked through the hallway, I passed framed photos of the firm's partners. Marcus's portrait hung prominently near the conference room, looking polished and successful in an expensive suit. But something was different. His smile looked forced, and there were stress lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 years ago. Jennifer? A familiar voice made me turn. Marcus stood in his office doorway, and the changes were more apparent up close. He'd lost weight, but not in a healthy way. His hair was thinning, and his shirt looked like he'd slept in it. Marcus. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Wow. You look. He gestured vaguely. You look really good. I did look good. 3 years of peace, of building a life without drama, of focusing on my daughter and my marriage, had given me something I never had before, confidence that came from within. Thank you. Listen, can we talk? After your meeting? There's so much I need to say. I glanced at my watch. I have a flight back to Portland in 2 hours. Portland. The word hung between us like a revelation. You've been in Portland this whole time? Mom said you'd moved, but she didn't know where. She hired a private investigator, when you just disappeared like that. The idea of my mother hiring someone to find me was almost funny. She'd spent 3 years wondering where I was instead of just asking herself why I'd left. I'll have 15 minutes after my meeting, I said. The legal business took longer than expected. When I emerged from the conference room, Marcus was waiting in the lobby, pacing like a caged animal. There's a coffee shop across the street, he said. We sat at a corner table, and I watched him struggle to find words. Finally, he just started talking. Sarah left me 6 months ago, took Jackson and moved to her mother's in California. He named his son casually, like I should know who Jackson was. Turns out she'd been having an affair with one of my colleagues for over a year. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. The firm asked me to take a leave of absence. The divorce is getting messy, and the affair thing, it's affecting my reputation. I'm living in Mom and Dad's basement again. Still, I waited. She's not doing well, Jen. Ever since you left, she's been different. Guilty, I think. She talks about you all the time, about how she failed you. Dad, too. They've aged 10 years and 3. I'm sorry to hear that. My tone must have been colder than I intended, because Marcus flinched. We were wrong, he said suddenly. About everything. The shower, the way we treated you, the way we always put my stuff first. I was too selfish to see it then, but losing everything, it gives you perspective. I checked my watch. I need to get to the airport. Please, Jen. Can you at least tell me about your daughter? Emma? I saw the birth announcement on Facebook before you blocked us. For the first time, I felt a flicker of emotion. Not anger, but something protective and fierce. Emma is wonderful. She's smart and kind, and she's never had to compete for anyone's attention. She's never been told someone else's achievements matter more than her existence. She's never been forgotten or dismissed or made to feel like she's not enough. Marcus's face crumpled. God, Jen. We really messed up, didn't we? I stood up and put on my coat. You made your choices, Marcus. All of you did. You chose to prioritize appearances over people, success over substance, your comfort over my dignity. But we're family. No, I said quietly. Family shows up. Family celebrates you. Family doesn't steal your special moments to make themselves feel important. I headed for the door, then turned back. I hope you figure things out, Marcus. I really do. But my life, Emma's life, we're not broken things waiting for you to fix them. We're whole and happy and complete without you. He called out as I reached the door. What about Mom? Will you at least call her? I paused, thinking about the woman who'd raised me, who taught me to be strong and independent, but who'd never learned to love me without conditions. Maybe someday, when she's ready to accept that I built something beautiful without her permission. The flight back to Portland was smooth, the sky clear as we descended over the mountains that had become home. David was waiting at the airport with Emma, who launched herself into my arms with the absolute confidence of a child who never doubted she was wanted. Mama, did you bring me something? I pulled a small snow globe from my bag, the only souvenir I'd bought from a city that used to define me. It's beautiful, Emma said, shaking it and watching the snow fall. But I like our home better.
So did I.
As we drove through Portland's familiar streets, past the park where Emma learned to walk, the library where she'd gotten her first book card, the coffee shop where I'd made friends who chose to love us, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete peace with the path I'd chosen. I'd given my family 3 years to reach out, to apologize, to acknowledge what they'd done. Instead, they'd hired an investigator to find me without ever asking themselves why I'd disappeared in the first place. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. Some stories end with the quiet satisfaction of building something better than what you left behind. Emma fell asleep in her car seat, the snow globe clutched in her small hands, and I knew I'd made the right choice. We were home,